Hey, what is going on, guys? This is DK. Back at you with another video here for my final look breakdown of the Week 7 NFL main slate on Draftkings. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports daily fantasy sports slates. I do want to say thank you guys again for all support. It is greatly appreciated on the videos, the live streams, as well as on Twitter. The easiest way to support me with all the content being free is just leave a like button on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos, you know when I go live. I will be live streaming for this one 1 hour before lock on my YouTube channel, going over everything and answering any questions you guys have. So make sure to check out the live stream tomorrow morning, guys. Also, if you guys cannot watch the videos, I do upload an Apple Podcast. The link is in the description below, which is the DK DFS show. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So, couple of things to talk about here since I made the early look video. One, we now have Tampa Bay and Las Vegas on the main slate, and what I'm really happy about is they kept Seattle, Arizona on the main slate. I thought that was going to be moved to just a showdown slate. You guys know I love playing Kyler Murray. I was like, oh man, I can't play him in the main slate. They kept him on there. It's going to be the late night hammer. Now, what I'm a little bit worried about, I guess, is I think the ownership will be up even more because people are just going to want to have that late night hammer. This kind of reminds me of the old days. Well, I guess the old days were technically they had the Monday night football game on the main slate as well, so you had to wait another day. But I think the ownership might be a little bit up on that late game just because it is the late game. But all right, let's talk about quarterbacks here. And from the early look video, not a lot has changed for me. I'm still looking to spend up. Now, there are a couple ways to spend down, which, I'll mention a couple guys, but the spend up quarterbacks are in such good spots. Obviously, a lot of the receivers are as well, so you can make some nice GPP lineups. At the top here, we have Russell Wilson at 8K. Sure, kind of feels like a lot, but he has been having an MVP-like season this year, and Seattle has really been airing it out more. This game has definitely the makings for potential for a shootout. So, always have interest in Russell Wilson. Yeah, Josh Allen's a guy I'm not going to get to at 7-7. Kind of laid out in the early look video, but I'm just not confident the Jets can score enough points here to make the Bills have to score enough. So, I'm just not going to take the risk here on Josh Allen. Mahomes at 7-4 is a fine GPP play. The price is decent. You can always pair him with Tyreek Hill or Kelsey. Denver did look pretty good the last game against New England. So, I'm not going to prioritize Patrick Mahomes. I do like some other quarterback spots in a little bit better spots, but he is always in play for GPPs. Now we get to Rodgers and Watson in the same game. Again, I'm not worried about Green Bay in that offense last game. We do have big news, potentially Aaron Jones out. If that's the case, maybe they rely on the pass a little bit more with the guys like Devontae Adams. Also makes a couple, really solid value plays if he's out, and guys like Jamal Williams, who I'd assume would get the lead back role with kind of A.J. Dillon backing it up. We'll talk about that when we go to running backs. But Rodgers definitely in play. Houston has really struggled defensively. Watson as well. This game also has the makings for shootout. Watson has been playing really well. And the positive with Deshaun Watson is Houston is just terrible defensively, right? So it seems like he's always playing from behind, which is what you want. You want your quarterback to be playing from behind, so he has to air it out. And Watson has been playing from behind, feels like, every single week. Sure, right? He's not doing a whole lot on the ground, but really for how bad Houston's been defensively, it's really helped Deshaun Watson. So, like both quarterbacks in that game, Matt Ryan just in play for GPPs here at 6-7 because he's up and down. But this Detroit-Atlanta game, both defenses have struggled. It's going to be played inside in the Dome. You can see Matt Ryan last 4 games, 12, 12-7, and then 34 fantasy points. I mean, he does have a healthy Ridley and Julio Jones, which is always a plus. So, Matt Ryan's never got to look to in cash, but always you can look to in GPP. So, I'm probably not going to get to Brady or Big Ben. Matt Stafford, I would have wished he was a little bit cheaper. But, I think this is the game maybe that the Detroit offense really breaks out. If you played them last week, you got a bit unlucky. They got off to a big lead and then kind of relied on the run game the rest of the way. So, Stafford didn't have to do a whole lot. But this is, again, a great matchup here, and We do have some cheap receivers here for Detroit. I think you can pair him with. So, yeah, sure, I would have wished Stafford was a little bit cheaper, but definitely viable here. Herbert as well, I think, will be somewhat popular because of the matchup. Another guy that has been playing really well since he came on in week 2 there. Again, Jacksonville has not been able to stop anyone. So, and he's had over 20 fantasy points in 3 of his first 4 games. I think he's certainly in play. Keenan Allen's a guy I think will be pretty popular. You can definitely pair him there. This next tier I'm not overly excited about. Like Cam Newton, I'm not going to get to. Tannehill, probably not going to get to Breeze. Missing a couple of his receivers. Not going to get to Dalton or Minshew. I think, the cheap guy I would consider down here if you're looking to kind of punt quarterback, I guess, is Joe Burrow at 5.5. Cleveland has struggled. They've been solid against the run, struggled to defend the pass, and about 20 fantasy points here in 3 of the last 4 games here for Burrow. And he's got a bit unlucky, too, with touchdowns. No touchdowns through there the last couple of games. So maybe the touchdown advance goes his way this week. He does have 3 receivers you can pair him with. I think all 3 are in play. So Burrow, if I'm looking to spend down on quarterback, Burrow is probably the guy for me. Below that, don't really have interest. Yeah, Bridgewater's fine if you want to go there. But, yeah, if I'm looking to really spend down on quarterback, I think Joe Burrow is the guy for me. Let's talk about running back. And running back, oh, man, like last week, I think there's a ton of different ways you can go. We now have a lot of value here. We have Mixon ruled out. We're going to talk about Gio. We have potential Aaron Jones ruled out. So you can spend up, but there's also a good amount of spend down options too at running back. So, yeah, a lot of different ways you can go. Top guys, Kamara at 7.9. Now, we have no Michael Thomas, and we have no Emmanuel Sanders. So, I think they lean on Kamara a little bit more this game. And again, Carolina has struggled to defend the run. So, he's going to be popular as a spend-up running back. I think he makes for a really good option in cash games. Is he a must-play? I don't necessarily think he's a must-play because there could be some really good value plays. We already have Gio, again, potential Green Bay. There's Justin Jackson, too. So don't necessarily think he's a must-play because there's so many good wide receiver plays on the slate. But definitely someone that looks like a really safe option there for cash. Now, Zeke I think will be a little bit more of a contrarian play here because I think the flocks will go to Kamara and then maybe spend down at running back. I think that's going to be a pretty popular build, is plugging Kamara and then plugging a couple of cheap backs. Zeke, I think, goes overlooked. But I think he's still viable here. Again, kind of game flow independent. Sure, he fumbled twice that last game. That's obviously a little bit of concern. I don't think they're going to give Pollard more work, but they could give him a little bit more, which is, again, a little bit concerning. But Zeke, game flow independent. If they're playing from ahead, he'll get a good amount of carries. Behind, we saw it the last game. 8 catches, 10 targets. We saw it in the Cleveland game. We saw it in the Seattle game when they were playing behind. 8 catches, 8 targets. 6 catches, 11 targets. So, again, pretty safe for that reason alone. Derrick Henry's a guy I'm going to avoid. I don't know if he's going to be overly popular. Did have over 200 yards in the ground. A lot of that was on like a 96-yard run. The downside of Derrick Henry is just no real involvement in the passing game. It's a tougher spot here. People might chase that last game. I feel a little bit more comfortable with some other running backs. So sure, is fading Derrick Henry scary? Yeah, it is, because he's a workhorse back. And if Tennessee's playing from ahead here, he could push for 30 carries. So it's always a scary fade, but Henry's not a guy I'm going to get to. Aaron Jones at 7.2, this is big news. His status is up in the air. If he plays, I think he makes for a pretty good option here against this Houston team who can't seem to stop anyone. The downside of Jones is he's still not going to get like a true workhorse role if he does play, because they do like giving Jamal Williams some work. A.J. Dillon did get a couple carries the last game. But I think that was partly due to the blowout. So that is the downside for Jones. The positives are he's very, very productive with his touches. And again, great matchup. So we'll see. If he does miss, we'll talk about some value there. Kareem Hunt at 6.8. Finally gets a better spot here against, he had 2 really bad matchups taking over for the lead back role there since Chubb went down with the Colts and the Steelers. This is a better spot here against the Bengals. We know Cleveland is run first team. Sure, he only had 13 carries the last game. Well, they were playing from behind big time, so I'm not overly worried about that. I think this is a game he can definitely push for 20-plus carries. He's a good passing back, too. In the mid-range, I think he's a very solid play. James Conner at 6'7", always seems to go overlooked in these slates. He's still getting a healthy amount of carries. Targets have been a little bit up and down, but the price is very, very fair. Tennessee, another team that has struggled defensively. Mike Davis, I think, will be somewhat popular here. I think it is for good reason, though. Still no McCaffrey. The last matchup was really tough against Chicago. This matchup is still not amazing, but I think it's a little bit better than the matchup against Chicago. And the floor is high with him because of the receiving work. Did only have 2 catches and 3 targets last game. I'm not overly concerned about that. I think those do go up this week. So definitely considering Mike Davis here in the mid-range. Carson at 6'4". He's a guy that is... Seattle is interesting enough, has kind of turned into a pass-first team, but Carson's still a guy that I think does get somewhere around 15 carries. He's been getting a lot more involvement in the pass game, which is good to see. And the price is very, very fair here, 6.4K. So Carson's someone that I think is a pretty good play in the mid-range. Joe Mixon out. Again, we'll talk about Gio. I think is one of the better value plays of the day. Probably not getting to Josh Jacobs against that tough Tampa Bay defense. And Ronald Jones is the tough one because Leonard Fournette's back. So what is Fournette's role going to be? Fournette has basically missed the last couple games here, and Jones has ran for over 100 yards the last 3 games. This is a good matchup too, so I still have interest in Ronald Jones. The one concern is just, what is Fournette's role going to be in this offense? But again, it's hard to argue what Jones has done, and a good matchup here, so I definitely have interest there in Ronald Jones. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 6'1". Did we get confirmation here on Le'Veon Bell if he's going to play for sure? So I don't know if we have confirmation yet on Bell. If Bell is out, if they don't utilize him, then Clyde Edwards-Helaire makes for a decent play. We saw the last game they really relied on the ground game. He had close to 200 yards, 161 yards in the ground, 4 catches on 4 targets. So Edwards-Helaire is basically strictly dependent on whether or not Le'Veon Bell does play. I'm not going to get to McKinnon. I know that the workload's going to go up, but I still have some other backs here at the back. The San Francisco New England game's a game I want to avoid. This next range, I'm not overly excited. I don't think I'm going to chase the Swift game. They still utilize 2 other backs there. I know it's a good matchup, but the price is a little bit too much for me. Okay, now we get to the cheap plays. So Justin Jackson's a guy I think will be pretty popular for value. He looked good that last game. 15 carries, 71 yards, had 5 catches and 6 targets. He looked better than Joshua Kelly. It's a great matchup. Again, the downside is they are going to utilize 2 backs here. I would say maybe a 50-50 split, maybe 60-40 in favor of Jackson, but the matchup makes him certainly viable, and the price, and the fact that he's getting a good amount of work through the air as well. I think he is the better passage and back of the 2, so Jackson's definitely someone I'm considering for value. I think you can look to Kenyon Drake at 4.8. Now, the downside here is no involvement in the passing game. But finally broke out the last game, went for over 160 yards there. Again, a really good matchup here against Seattle. So if you think the Cardinals are going to be playing from ahead here, you can definitely look to Drake. If you think they fall behind, then maybe you want to look elsewhere. Again, Fournette, what is his role going to be? So we'll see. But Ronald Jones has been playing really, really well. Giovanni Bernard, he's at 4.5. I think he's one of the better value plays. No Joe Mixon, should be the lead back here. He's a great passing back. The price is just too cheap for his workload here, so he's one of the better value plays of the day. Definitely in play in both formats. And then finally, I want to talk about the Green Bay running backs. So let me go to Green Bay really quick. If Aaron Jones is out, I think it would be Jamal Williams that gets the majority of the work, but they still do have A.J. Dillon too. So yeah, Jamal Williams is the flat man for running back 4K. If Jones is out, I think he makes for a really, really good value play here. A good passing back as well. And I do have A.J. Dillon too. Hasn't been getting as much work. So I think if Aaron Jones is out, it probably would be like a 60-40 Jamal Williams and be 70-30 split. So yeah, Jamal Williams would probably be the guy for me if Aaron Jones is out. I think he would be one of the better value plays of the day as well. So yeah, running back, there's a lot of options. There's some good spend ups. There's a lot of good plays in the mid-range. There's a few cheap options as well. So got to keep an eye on Jones news. That could change some things, obviously. Wide receiver situation. So Hopkins at the top at 8-2. They haven't listed as questionable. I think he's going to be good to go. He missed, Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday. He was back on Friday. Sure, you're going to have to pay a premium for him, and he did have a bad game the last game, but Like I said, this game has all the makings for a shootout here with Seattle and Arizona. You can definitely pair him with Kyler Murray, who... Did I skip over Kyler Murray at quarterback? I think I might have. I mean, if you guys watch my earlier video, you know I'm super, super high on Kyler Murray. Really excited that he's still on the main slate. The rushing upside makes him a really, really safe play. You know, he is a guy that, again, the matchup's great. The price is very, very fair. So Kyler is still the guy for me that I'm looking to at quarterback, but there are a lot of different ways you can go. You know, some spend with quarterbacks. I think you could spend down with Burrow. So yeah, did not intentionally mean to skip over Kyler because he's a guy I really, really like and probably where I'm looking to at quarterback. And if you want to pair him with Hopkins, that is always in play here. Hopkins is the guy that's, you know, can get double-digit targets every single week. Has that cute big play upside. So definitely Hopkins is in consideration. Devontae Adams I think looks really good as well. Possibly no Aaron Jones. An amazing matchup here. Again, the first game back here against Tampa Bay, he had 6 catches and 10 targets in a tough spot. This is a much, much better spot here against Houston. So definitely looking to Devontae's to spend up as well. We have no Michael Thomas. We have no Emmanuel Sanders. I'll talk about some cheap New Orleans receivers I think are viable on the slate. But again, wide receiver at the top is so loaded that you have Ridley and Julio. You can always pair with Matt Ryan in a good spot there against Detroit. You have the Seattle receivers and Metcalf and Lockett. Right, you have Galladay on the Detroit side. I think this Detroit offense has a breakout game here. You have Will Fuller. You can pair with Watson. Right, so there are so many good spend-up wide receivers in the slate, and you're going to have to make some tough decisions. Like I still am a little bit undecided where I want to go for my build, but yeah, there's a lot of good spend-up receivers, and if you're making one lineup like myself, again, you're going to have to make tough calls. Now, if you're making a lot of lineups, yeah, you can do little game stacks, you can mix and match, but yeah, Galladay, he's the thumbnail of my video. The price tag, I think, will scare some people away. Hasn't really been like amazing so far, but I think this is a game he could have a breakout. Like maybe this is a game he goes for 10 plus catches and over 100 yards and a touchdown, right? So I definitely am considering Galladay though at that price. I think the 6-7 price tag will scare some people away. Again, Lockett and Metcalf I do like a lot here. I do prefer Lockett for the discount, but both are in play. We know where the targets are going to on Seattle. Hill's always in play for GPPs. Not really someone looking to in cash, but 6'4" is cheap. You can always pair with Mahomes, right? The Tampa Bay receivers with Godwin and Mike Evans. We do have Antonio Brown, not back yet, but looking like he's going to be available there for Week 9, I think. Yeah, Godwin and Evans seem a little bit too cheap. 6'4" and 6'3". Again, the new additions to the main slate here with this Tampa Bay and Las Vegas game. You know, I think they're certainly viable. Now, the one downside is that if Tampa Bay gets off to an early lead, like they have, you know, a couple of recent games, that they will rely on the run more. So maybe look to Ronald Jones instead. But Godwin and Mike Evans, their price tags look pretty appealing here. Now, Keenan Allen, this is a guy I mentioned that if you want to pair someone with Herbert, probably would be Keenan Allen. Now, there are a couple other options, right? You can look to Mike Williams, the big play upside. You can look to Hunter Henry at tight end. But Keenan Allen's been so safe. The last game, don't be worried. He got injured. Previous games, 8, 10, 19, 11 targets. Again, an amazing matchup. I think Keenan Allen's way too cheap. I think he looks like one of the better plays for cash games. Definitely not a must play, but someone that looks really, really good. The one downside is, again, he was dealing with back spasms, I think it was. Yeah, this next tier wide receiver is, I'm not overly excited about like the mid tier, like the spend up somewhere. I'm looking to wide receiver or some spend down options. Like McLaurin in the mid range, I think will be somewhat popular. It's an amazing matchup here. If you want to go there, I think that's fine. Again, he's getting a ton of targets. This is the one downside is the shaky quarterback play. Let's see. Do we have Deontay Johnson? Is he in for Pittsburgh? It looks like he's good to go. So, yeah, Claypool at his price. I know he's been playing well, or he's played really well last couple games, but I'm not going to go to Claypool with Deontay Johnson back. DJ Moore 5'6" is a fine option. Did have 11 targets last game. He's been a little bit expected a little bit more from DJ Moore this season. So someone that you can look to for GPPs. I'm not going to get to Juju. The Cincinnati receivers with Boyd, Higgins, and AJ Green I think are all viable here. Boyd probably seems like the safest option. just because he's been getting the most targets here. 13, 8, 6, and 8 targets playing out of the slot. Burrow has been, liking targeting the slot receivers. Again, a good matchup here against the Browns. So you can definitely look to Tyler Boyd if you want to pair him with a guy like Burrow. I think Higgins is fine as well. We'll talk about A.J. Green in a sec. Cooks at 5'2". The last couple games has been amazing for him. 8 catches, 12 targets, 9 catches, 9 targets. Again, a pretty decent matchup. This is a game that definitely could shoot out here with Green Bay and Houston. So Cooks, even with an elevated price, I think it is definitely viable here. Other options at wide receiver, Christian Kirk at 4-9, I think might be somewhat popular. My one downside with him is he's still not getting a ton of targets. So he did have 2 catches for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns last game, but only 3 targets. In the previous game, 7, 5, and 4 targets. So 4-9, yeah, he's in play, but he's just not getting a ton of targets, which is the one worry there, I guess, with Kirk. Mike Williams, if you don't want to go to Keenan Allen chalk, I think Mike Williams is okay. Now, I think he's more suited for GPP, so his injury history and more the boom or bust style. But so he's more someone I look to for the GPP format. Cheaper options here, like Marvin Jones Jr., I know he's been terrible. I know. And I know people have been burned by him. I still haven't gone to him yet this season, but I'm considering him. If you don't want to get to Galladay, Jones is the number 2. He's still playing a ton of the game. I know the targets haven't been there, but I just feel like this Detroit offense, it could break out this game against Atlanta. So this might be the cheapest. You'll get Marvin Jones Jr. here at 4.4K. I know he's burned a decent amount of people, but I'm looking, definitely looking to him for value. A.J. Green as well at 4.3. Looked really good that last game. The downside with him is he's been dealing with injuries. It feels like the last 5 years, but 8 catches, 11 targets. If you're buying in this A.J. Green, I think he looks like a pretty decent value option. Let's see. Like Deontay Johnson's at 4.2. It's just the injuries with him, right? If he can stay healthy, I think he makes for one of the best value plays here at 4.2. So I guess, are you willing to take the risk and hope he stays healthy? If he plays a full game, I think he could definitely break out. I mean, the first couple games, 6 catches, 10 targets, 8 catches, 13 targets. It is a great matchup here against Tennessee. So I do like Deontay Johnson a good amount. It's just the downside of the injuries, right? MVS, the number 2 receiver for Green Bay, I think he makes for a pretty decent option. So, yeah, there is, again, for me, wide receiver, it's spending up and it's spending down. The mid-range I'm not overly excited about. So, and there's a couple other spend-down options here that I think are in play. So, let's talk about, first I guess I want to bring up Gabriel Davis. We have no John Brown. The last game against Tennessee, where John Brown was out, he had 5 catches and 9 targets for 58 yards. And he played, I believe, the entire game. So he's going to play majority of the game, 3.6K. It's a good matchup. My one concern is, can the Jets score enough where Buffalo has to air it out? But yeah, Gabe Davis is someone I think is certainly viable here as a cheap option. KJ Hamler is back for Denver, but what is the workload going to be? Again, been dealing with the hamstring injury, the rookie, so you can look to him in GPPs. Definitely, I don't think I would go there in cash. And then, yeah, Demarcus Robinson as well here for Kansas City. We still have no Sammy Watkins. He played way more than McCole Hardman, which was a little bit of a surprise to some, but he had 5 catches, 6 targets. I think he's a viable punt option. And then finally, again, New Orleans, I want to mention, missing both of their top receivers with Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Traquan Smith at 4K is going to be the de facto number 1 wide receiver. Definitely can look to him. And you have Deontay Harris and Marquez Callaway at the flat min here. We have no Benny Fowler, too. So I only see 3 healthy receivers here for New Orleans. Harris and Callaway, if you want to punt, I think are both in play. I think might slightly prefer Callaway, but I think both these guys, all 3 of the New Orleans receivers are in play here with Smith, Harris, and Callaway. So, yeah, wide receiver, again, there is, for me, it's spending up or it's spending down. I think there's a lot of good options at the top and a lot of good options for some salary relief. Finally, tight end. You have the top 3 tight ends in not the best spots here with Kittle, Kelsey, and Waller, but all 3 are always in play. So yeah, don't have an issue if you want to spend up on one of those guys. Hockenson feels a little bit too pricey. Noah Fant's back, but I'm not overly excited about the price there. Juju Smith, I know it's a tough matchup, but he's been getting targeted a ton. A guy they're looking to in the red zone a bunch, so I'm fine with Juju Smith. I think guys like Hunter Henry, we know I think Keenan Allen's going to be somewhat popular. I think Justin Jackson will get some ownership on the slate, so I don't think a lot of people will get to Hunter Henry. If you want to kind of leverage that ownership and go Hunter Henry, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think he does make for a pretty decent tight end play. I'm okay with Hayden Hurst, too. Against Detroit, they said they want to get him a little bit more involved. He's still running a lot of routes. Not getting targeted a bunch, but again, this Atlanta offense is a pass-first team, and Detroit has struggled defensively. So Hurst, Hunter Henry, kind of the mid-range guys I'm looking to. I don't even mind Jared Cook just because I think he gets targeted more for no Emmanuel Sanders, no Michael Thomas. Like, they might lean on Jared Cook even more here, 4.3K. So I think he's someone that makes for a decent play in the mid-range at tight end. And then if you want to punt the position, I'm okay with Eric Ebron there, 4K in a good spot. Schultz and Logan Thomas in the same game are fine. Schultz is a guy that still getting targeted a decent amount. Logan Thomas, it's a good matchup here. 7-4-4 and 4 targets. He's still a guy that's running a lot of routes. So those are two guys I think are certainly viable if you want to spend down. And then if you want to go all the way down, Ferkser was the guy I was looking to, but we have Juju Smith there, so I'm not going to get to Ferkser. But a guy like James O'Shaughnessy is, I think you can consider him at 2.6. No Tyler Eifert. He is going to be the number 1 tight end. So probably not going to break the slate, but he doesn't need to do a whole lot at this price. Like, he just really needs to get you 2 or 3 catches, and that's all you need. So O'Shaughnessy is someone I think you can look to if you really want to punt tight end. And that's about it. So let's finish up with defense, guys, and then we'll get out of here. Defense is a highly variant position. Normally, I just spend down on it and hope whoever I pick doesn't kill me. But if you want to play it safe, the Bills, right? The Jets have been absolutely terrible. They got shot the last game. If you have a salary for the Bills, definitely can consider them. I think they're a safe option. The Patriots and the 49ers in the same game here. Both defenses are in play. I think this is going to be a slow, kind of ugly game. Not a lot of points scored. So I'm fine with either the Patriots or the 49ers defense if you want to go that direction. Other options here for defense in the mid-range. Not a whole lot. I mean, I think the Browns will be somewhat popular of a defense there at 2.8K going up against a rookie quarterback. But I do kind of like the upside there on Burrow with his receivers. So, yeah, if you want to go Browns in the mid-range, that's fine. And then if you want to completely punt it, I know you're not going to feel confident in it, but I don't hate the Jets' defense here. Josh Allen's turned the ball over a decent amount. If you do punt with the Jets, you just got to hope they get you a couple points. Like, if I get 2 or 3 points from the Jets defense here at $2,000, I'm happy with that. I don't want them to give me negative 4 points. If that's the case, then I'm in trouble. But I'm really just hoping they can get me 2 or 3 points, and that's all I need. Again, defense is there's so much variance involved in defense that, again, if you just get a pick 6, then you're fine, right? And you can give up a ton of points. So I don't hate punting with the Jets if you want to go that route. Obviously, it's risky, but again, just hoping for a couple points if you do go that route. So that about wraps up for the breakdown here today, guys. I think it's going to wrap it up for the video as well. So if you have been enjoying the content so far, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell. Again, I will be live streaming 1 hour before lock, going over everything, kind of talking cash plays, kind of talking GPP plays, where I'm going to go, and then again, answer questions you guys have at the end. So thanks again, guys. I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you all in the live stream tomorrow.